No one intends to drift. It's just an outcome of a highly complex set of constraints that lead to the fact that it's really, really hard not to. And this project isn't really about getting zero drift. It's about just kind of getting an asymptote to chasing as little drift as we possibly can. And to do that, we really need to build a system that is at the same level of complexity as the problem, but that gives the user a remarkably simple interface.
There is not one consolidated solution that sort of tries to bring together all of the different data streams that a farmer might need during spraying application, to the point where he's getting those kind of reports in real time, and if conditions change during that application and they're no longer favourable, he has that notification and can make a decision based on that.
There are online spraying courses and reams of material on the ideal spraying application, what not to do, how boom height affects droplet dispersion, etc. But the issue is that there's so much, and it can be contradictory for the end user and the farmer. It can get overwhelming, and it can sometimes get put into the too hard basket as a result.
It's clear, just interviewing a whole heap of different spray experts from all around the world, that a lot of them don't necessarily even know when the right times are to spray. If you take together all of the different variables that people are looking at, because people look at these little siloed parts of the problem.
The parameters change from region to region, from farmer to farmer, and from one spray window to the next. When we spoke to a lot of the experts, both here and in the US, and tried to pin down exactly what makes for the best spraying conditions, or what do you think is the key to tackling this problem, the answer would invariably start with, well, it depends. One thing there was a general consensus on is that any solution or attempt to tackle this issue needs to be as easy as possible to deploy and really not get in the way of the farmer, doing their job, or restrict them in that way, or in any way sort of reduce efficiency across that process. There was agreement that the vast majority of operators want to do the right thing and the responsible thing when it comes to pesticide spraying. But if a system requires a lot of manual data entry, or sort of like repeated entry of the same parameters, or it's overly complex, you're not going to get that uptake in the end user, and you've essentially lost the battle before starting. There was also some consensus that a solution needs to not only look at drift risk, but also efficacy, and make the argument for best practice with both of these in mind.
So one of the things we've seen through the interview series is that you've got some people who are taking higher level rules of thumb and actually in a sophisticated way trying to navigate that complexity and doing a really good job of it. Others are just giving up.
We're talking about a process that's as complex as a pilot planning a flight and taking off and landing whilst responding to weather patterns. And yet a farmer we don't equip with the same level of instrumentation. So we kind of have to expect that drift events will happen.
When we architect a new solution, we look deeply into the industry we're working in, but we also look to other industries to see how they've solved problems that are similar or have similar components. As someone who's spent a lot of time on spray rigs and who has a private pilot's license, and I've spent a bit of time in the cockpit as well, it immediately was clear to me the parallel between these two worlds. And I reached out to a friend of mine who is a product developer who built a solution for essentially the same kind of problem, but in aviation.
OzRunways is what they call an electronic flight book, and it's what pilots carry now in place of paper maps and charts and books. In terms of information that a pilot requires, he requires information pre-flight, during flight, might be weather or locations of things, and after the flight he needs to log the flight. I took everything that the pilot required and put it into one application within a couple of taps available, and anything that needed to be computed was computed automatically.
I feel that's the same thing a spray operator needs. Something that, even when there are constraints, will self-heal and optimise around them with a few clicks to help them deploy the chemical with the best optimisation of their current configuration, considering weather and machinery.
VFR flights are visual flight rules, which means, it's usually sunny and you can see everything, right? Instrument flight rules, IFR, are usually conditions are not so good. So let's imagine you're on an IFR trip and you've taken off and something's happened to the airport. So air traffic control may notify you, look, the cloud's on the ground at Cessnock, you're going to divert to Maitland, right? In the old days, you'd have to get the pencil and paper out and kind of do that on your knee with, you know, measuring and calculator and all of this. Now all you do is go click, 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 and you've got it within seconds.
And this is something I feel the spray operators need as well. Something that takes in any fixed constraints before spray and any changing constraints during spray, and then with a few clicks just re-optimizes the whole system around them to help them deploy with the best version of their configuration. If you put a VFR pilot in IFR conditions without the right ratings or the right equipment, they're going to kill someone. To me, it's the same with spraying. If you've got a VFR spray pilot in the wrong conditions, you're going to drift.
The way actually I got started on this was I had to do calculations of what they call lower safe altitudes. So the way that I had to do that was to get a paper map, draw a line on the map, and just follow the map, the line down, looking for every altitude and figure out which was the highest. You know, I got sick of this because I had to do this every time I had to do a flight plan. So what I did is I got the database for altitude from NASA, and then I just ran along the database and looked at all the heights that NASA gave, and I figured it out. That was the actual start of my involvement in the app.
I love that story because I feel that's exactly what's going on in the spray industry. And when we interviewed so many different farmers, one of the things that really came through strong was there's a lot of really repetitive and manual tasks that are needed to be done to set up a spray event and spray effectively. And because of that, it's error prone, or people just aren't doing it correctly. When you walk into LX, we've got a quote from Thomas Edison up on the wall that says, "There's a way to do it better, find it." And that's exactly what has been done here. And I can see how in the spray industry we can give exactly the same kind of tool to help just do this in a way that relieves the burden from the operator to allow them to focus on the things that are really important to their operation.
When we did Osromes for a start and we had digital copies of the maps, we could only claim it as an aid. We could not claim the image on the screen as a replacement for the paper map. You know, they saw it as a threat to safety. Now, the funny thing that happened was that we fought this for about a year, and then we got asked down to CASA, and they said, so are you going to apply to make the digital maps legal? And we said, oh, we thought that'd take a long time and a big process. And they said, no, just do it, just put in the application. And we said, how long is that going to take? And they said, next week. We're thinking years, right? Now what had happened was that the actual people at CASA were using our app and they wanted it legal. So that's the way it came about.
So I want to encourage people who are feeling like this is an insurmountable task in spray drift, that even in an industry as highly regulated and conservative as aviation, where lives are literally at stake, if the product or solution is right, it is possible to transform an entire industry from policymakers through to end users in a really, really short amount of time.
The revolution that's happening, you know, what the before and the we're never going to use that and you're never going to use it, to, oh yeah, well that's of course we use that. It was like a precipice, and then it was just a volume of water down the dam, and there was no turning back.
So we had a bit of fun when we came up with the name for this solution, Maverick. We liked the idea of, in the same way that Tony Stark has Jarvis, giving our operators in the spray rigs an assistant that really speaks to the level of sophistication. I mean, Maverick is the top pilot in Top Gun school and is a little bit cheeky. He likes to push the boundaries of what's possible. We felt that this could resonate with the target market. Our proposed solution is essentially a unified framework that pulls together all of the different disparate tools and information sources into one easy-to-use platform that's just a click away from letting an operator know what they should do next. The core design principles we applied to this are: 1, plug and play; 2, something that was able to grow over time. So as we get new knowledge, those little bits of new knowledge can be inserted into the system and the system can just get better. 3, we wanted it to be equipment agnostic. The 4th design principle was the concept of expandability. So you can start at a simple version of the system, but then grow over time. And the 5th design principle is just something that has integrity inherently. It's robust, they can trust that it's going to work and stay working.
We followed a similar process to that which we use in our design house, where a client comes to us with a problem or an opportunity. As a part of this process, we interviewed and spoke to a wide range of different people in the industry, from researchers and scientists that have studied spray drift for the past few decades, to members of the governing bodies, agronomists and a lot of end users and growers.
We've got an amazing team working on this product. Ex-Apple, Philips, Cochlear, ResMed, EOS Space Systems, Syngenta, a whole heap of capability that's really hitting us full on.
We also learned from farmers and agronomists that the cost and time spent to implement new systems was likely to be a barrier to adoption if we got those wrong. So we spent time thinking about this to create different entry levels, and how, as these levels increase, you have more and more data streams available to you, and you have more opportunities to spray because the windows become wider, less restrictive.
We know only too well from our work in smart farms that to accelerate adoption, there's nothing like just going from small town to small town, getting the agronomists and getting them to get their farmers along. So we've invested in this experience discovery centre that enables us to take this experience to them, and through doing that we know it will be key to getting and accelerating adoption.
The fact that they can build the system over time into exactly what they need and it doesn't get any harder to use will also be an attractive prospect.
We've taken a lot of design inspiration from Tesla. Firstly, Tesla didn't jump straight into self-driving cars. They started doing automatic braking, lane following and distance separation management. Secondly, Tesla ships self-driving cars every day, even though they're not legal yet. Why? Because they know the laws will catch up, and when they do, they can just flick the switch. This is our approach for e-labels and regulations. Let's build Maverick the way it needs to be. Then, we just flick the switch as other stakeholders catch up.
So for Maverick to be born global, we wanted to ensure that it could easily adapt its operation to optimize within local laws and regulations. Then there are external data sources and existing tools. Be it mathematical drift models, predictive weather services, buffer zone calculators, pressure and nozzle selection tables, we've taken an approach that treats all of these modules and pipes that can be swapped or added like Lego pieces. Tesla has 2.1 billion kilometers of driving data, and this experience is shared with a car fresh off the production line.
Our vision for Maverick is it becomes the development platform for researchers and learning algorithms around the world. It became apparent to us that researchers are sorely lacking real data, and a platform that can deliver this to them in a way that they can test their theories and their spreadsheets and their models with is a hugely valuable asset, in addition to an advisory system. So we have designed in a provision for developers who want to use this as a platform. Finally, in the same way that Tesla can open up the Tesla Autopilot OS to other manufacturers to be able to benefit from their driving technology, we see this as something that could be the future of Maverick. Now let's look under the hood a little more. With weather data, naturally the system performance increases if we've got localized on-farm or even on-equipment data to get real microclimate information. This includes temperature, humidity, delta T and wind speed and direction, as these are key risk factors and are required for automated record keeping.
In addition to these, we have a solution for a low-cost on-farm inversion detection system utilising high accuracy temperature sensors and wind characteristics. However, as laws, labels and regulations become more sophisticated with permits and increasingly complex operational rules, these will naturally evolve into key Oracle sources for Genesis data required for advanced compliance records.
In addition to this, with our focus on efficacy, not just drift, Maverick incorporates data from rainfall, soil moisture probes, UV and solar radiation, and leaf wetness sensors. With these, we can optimise for high-level rules like don't spray within 4 hours of rain, and also look at volatilization risk, as well as optimise for spray windows not just on drift risk, but on translocation efficiency and plant stress. After all, the goal is not just to land the chemical.
Over time, we believe these data sets will provide valuable insights when we evaluate the overall efficacy, as Maverick will have information we've never had access to before.
How many farmers perfectly record the exact conditions leading up 14 days before a spray event? Or have a system that tells them the urgency of getting on the ground now as opposed to waiting a few days? Maverick will use all of these data sources in conjunction with Plan A and Plan B configurations, and it will create spray windows, real-time alerts, and also feedback on accumulated missed spray window time to help optimise future operational planning.
We've taken an agnostic approach that makes it really easy to instrument any piece of equipment from any manufacturer of any age or any spray controller. So an entire retrofit is possible in a number of hours. Whilst Maverick has the ability to interface directly with existing systems, our focus has been to ensure that there isn't any reliance on existing systems.
It's important to note that those who don't want to invest in sensors on their spray equipment can just manually enter this information in the app. However, we see these on-equipment sensors as key to the objective of automating as much as possible to help drive system performance and reduce operator load. The way we've approached this is to go with a very simple peel and stick process to install the INCYT device on a bit of equipment. It typically takes about 10 seconds and about 15 minutes to wire into the power.
Antares deploys a machinery area network around the sprayer to interface with other sensors and the app, and it provides Maverick with GPS location, ground speed, direction and heading, as well as spray start-stop positions. So Maverick can prompt the operator if they commence a spray operation at the same location each time. Using this data in conjunction with paddock outlines and spray plans, Maverick can feed automatically to SATA crop, as well as obtain data from SATA crop to create warnings based on nearby crops.
We know that ground speed is a key factor for drift risk. However, with the INCYT unit, there are a few other data sources that come along for free. One of them is vibration, tilt, and terrain mapping, which when you mix that with boom width and boom height, you can actually approximate the amount of boom flex you're getting. As well as this, INCYT provides roof-mounted temperature, humidity, environmental air quality, and air pressure data.
Focusing on spray planning and tank mix, we've included a provision for an agronomist online portal, manual entry support, and QR code scanning. Maverick will incorporate with existing tools from the AP VMA, and we also intend to work with the chemical manufacturers towards more sophisticated electronic labels to enable a database-style lookup approach.
The current method of taking complex chemistry and physics-based rules, turning them into legal language, and then trying to simplify them for worst-case scenarios is the perfect storm for errors. Despite our excitement for electronic labels and what we see as a revolution, we know that Maverick needs to be able to perform on day one. And to do this, we just include the ability for manual entry throughout the Maverick Spray Plan Builder. The operator will also have the ability to set their own custom thresholds in line with their own risk profile.
The tank mix will feed into the key risk factors and enable chemical-specific training content. It will also provide the ability to deliver tank hygiene reminders, inputs to modified buffer zones, and also create records for compliance, as well as integrating with the Maverick Spray efficacy tool. All this contributes to an exciting future of enabling regulators and chemical manufacturers to support permits for advanced operating levels.
Given it's possible for a spray plan to have multiple operators actually conducting the spray activity, Maverick can actually automatically detect who's in the cabin. This is an option that can be selected to help optimise micro content delivery and tips for that operator based on their training level and performance on previous spray events. It can also provide encouraging feedback on the positive aspects of their configuration, not just the negative. All of this essentially enables the property owner or manager to evaluate the performance across individual operators on larger properties.
One of the coolest things about this system is Maverick actually has the capability to support an AR visualization tool. It's powered by the Unity gaming engine, and it provides the end user with an estimated drift visualization.
To ensure the system can be used in locations where there's little or no connectivity services, we've integrated the system with a private network solution that allows an operator to just pop up a base station on their property to give them the connectivity they need to enable the system to work.
With regards to spray setup, Maverick couples nozzle characteristics and configuration with real-time boom height and operating pressure, all critical inputs for modelling spray quality, droplet size and drift risk. It also includes options for real-time viscosity sensing, flow rate, tank level, and water quality monitoring. These help provide water rate tuning recommendations based on input water characteristics, and there's optional support for boom tip motion profile.
One of the greatest challenges with spraying is the lack of any real empirical data feedback. Maverick seeks to solve this with a pre and a post spray event photo of the key targets. Using the AI engine TensorFlow, Maverick generates an estimated spray result based on the images it receives, and over time builds a database that can be used for future learning algorithms when coupled with all of the other variables that have been captured.
Through the AR app, Maverick takes all of this information and automatically generates predicted spray windows and can provide real-time feedback and suggestions for spray planning, as well as during spraying and post-spray.
You get a report that essentially says, how well it went, and this is what could be done better next time. It also automates record keeping in a way that the operator is comfortable with. They might want to just select the start and stop of the spray event. Some people might want nothing recorded at all, and they claim they'll do their manual record keeping elsewhere. For those who are happy to enable the feature, there's also the ability to contribute to community-based spray dashboards where you can automatically alert other people as to when you're spraying and what your activity is.
Maverick combines all of these on-farm factors into one central location and incorporates intelligent processing to deliver a range of automated outputs for the key stakeholders, whilst keeping the farmer in complete control of all data recording and data sharing options. It combines industry best practice and modelling tools into one easy-to-use framework.
The first generation of Maverick will include a whole heap of existing tools and guides, including AgDisp, the GRDC spray handbook and cleaning guide, nozzle selection tables, standard deposition curves, the SD-RAM and the SD-RAT, and SATA crop, just to name a few.
Despite extensive investigation, we couldn't find an existing model that effectively incorporated all of these variables into one place. What we did discover is that there are key groups of variables that combine to create a specific risk profile.
If you take driving as an example, it's easy to kind of come up with a risk profile between vehicle mechanics like bald tyres, sloppy steering, and poor brakes. Like these you can link together to kind of give a risk profile. What is difficult is to kind of look at how you relate bald tyres directly to tiredness. I mean, you know that there's a relationship there, but exactly what that correlation is hard to pinpoint because a tired driver might not have an accident, so there's actually no impact in that event. Maverick uses similar variable groupings to this.
These groupings are then used to produce individual risk level summaries for the operator so they can get granular information about those specific factors. Then these factors are mapped to coefficients and feed into an overall risk and efficacy profile in one intuitive interface.
This is the first generation of our spray advisory system. This is Maverick.